If you watch this channel at all, you know that there is a love-hate relationship with this computer. This one happens to be currently a Ryzen 5 3600X on an X470 motherboard. It's got 16 gig of Trident Z memory. It's got a gigabyte 3060 RTX 3060 video card in it, but it's in this case, this 220T RGB case from Corsair that I have had my yeses and nos and my on and offs and my in and out and all kinds of other stuff, and but today I'm going to do something nice for it. Yes, today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing something nice. Cooler Master MWE Gold 850 version 2 fully modular power supply. Not that this needs an 850 watt power supply, but just because, well, I might have bigger plans for this case and maybe move these components into a different case. I don't know. But for the time being, I need something to do with this power supply, and that's the culprit. So you're probably asking yourself, why on earth would I put an 850 watt power supply into something that's got a 6-core 12-thread and an RTX 3060? It doesn't need anywhere near that. In fact, the 650 watt that's in it works fine. Part of that is I think I'm going to need that 650 for something else. The other part of that is when I went looking for a replacement power supply, a modular power supply for that to kind of cut down on cable clutter, I found this one actually cheaper than any of the 650s I was looking at, and it's gold rated. So it was kind of silly for me not to do it. Not only was it marked down in price, but it allowed me to go ahead and split. If I had the option, if I wanted to, I could have split I think I could have split it up over 3 months or something like that, but it was only $90. It was $89.99. And if I was looking for other power supplies, they were going to be in the $60 to $70 or $75 range. For a few bucks more, I could get something that was considerably more powerful, something I trusted more, and 80 plus gold. So, and like I said, the big reason why is because it's modular and I don't have to use all the cables and everything. I can cut down on some of the cable clutter that goes in that case, making it a little bit easier to use. So that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what we'll be doing. We'll go ahead and do this. It should be pretty easy. I shouldn't have any issues, and we'll go there. So I guess it would behoove me to at least open it up and let you guys see what's on the inside. I did take the plastic off because it had my address right here on the front, and you guys, I didn't want, well, first of all, not see the address, but second of all, you wouldn't be able to see the product. It does have all the info and specs on the back, but nobody cares about info and specs, right? So I like what they're doing now. They're actually including the pinouts. I don't know how easy that is to see, but you can see the pinouts that are actually the voltages and all that stuff that are on the cables. Screws to put it in. All the cables, they're all flat black. They're not sleeved, but they're flat black, so that'll be fine. I don't need any cable extensions. It does have a wide variety, including 2 for the CPU power, which I thought was pretty good. There's an 8-pin and a split 8, or a 4 and 4 combined. So that's a pretty good thing, especially because I think I'm not going to need it now, but I will need it in the future. And then, of course, the unit itself, pretty hefty looking, good weight to it. Cooler Master makes good fans, so I don't think I'll have any kind of problem with it being quiet. That should be fine. And thank goodness, when I go to change this out, the fan is on the bottom, and when you point it that direction, this label is the one that's out, not this label. A lot of power supplies, when I'm looking at them, I see that the fan, the intake from the fan comes in from the bottom, and then you've got this one showing toward the front of the case. Well, in this case, if the fan's on the bottom, this portion would be showing out towards the case, and so if you've got one of those little open windows, that's what will be advertised and not all the specs. So that's cool. So on with the swap. I love how when I'm trying to shut everything down, it just goes different colors on me. Those are all previous setups I've had, and somehow, some way, when I'm shutting the computer down, it gives me that little light show when it's shutting down. So as it shuts down, we'll open it up, we'll start swapping stuff out. As usual, the CPU power is going to be the fun one to get to. It's actually behind this fan, so I might end up having to take the fan out just so I can get to that and route the new one in. But I've already unhooked the other ones, including from the video card. So, onward. Now, my other actual challenge might be getting this out of here without having to take out the hard drive cage. If I'm careful, this is part of the reason, because I have to not clip this cable or not tear this cable up. I'm going to see what I can do. I should be able to do this, but putting it back in will be a lot easier. I think they're almost the same size, but there'll be a lot less cables to try to finagle. And as you can see, I've already got the 24 pin disconnected. I also disconnected the CPU power. So, yep, next step. Well, obviously that part worked out. So a couple other things to mention is the lighting control static cable. I had to make sure that I took that out. I almost forgot that was in the mix somewhere, and power to my hard drive, the HDD. I've got an NVMe drive in it, but the spinning 4 terabyte, it needs a static cable. So just little things to keep clear of. I did take the opportunity to blow everything out a little bit, clean everything down. And so now going the other direction. Obviously I'm not recording this because I need 2 hands. I don't have this on a stand, but hey, look, yeah, at least I'm showing you guys the parts in between. One thing that's important to note as we start to plug cables back in, one of them is definitely labeled for the CPU and the other one is definitely labeled for the power supply. Even though they will both fit in the same plug, yeah, it's important to keep that distinction. There is a little bit of a difference. So that one goes there. And likewise on the PCIe, those are labeled too. So good way to keep them separate. This one also has a 10 and an 18 plug, a 10 position and an 18, a 10 wire and an 18 wire plug that will end up being for the 24 that will go on the motherboard. So it splits that up a little bit, but overall this looks like a pretty good design. Well, as it turns out, I am going to have to move the hard drive tray because it is about a ½ inch deeper than the other power supply. The one I took out, the ThermalTake, this is the one I took out. It's actually not in bad shape. And it is about a ½ inch longer than that. So I thought maybe I'd get away with being able to slide the hard drive tray because there is slots on the bottom to let me slide it, but I don't know if you can see that well, but there's a fan butted almost right up against, and I'm not going to be able to slide it, so I will have to take it out. So I did manage to get it swapped out. I got everything in there. Like I said, it looks like it's upside down on this side, but it would be right side up on the other. Fan is on the bottom here for intake. Cleaned up. I thought it was going to be more of a rat's nest, even though I have less cables, but it ended up looking okay. It's not too bad, and I will be able to close it up looking okay. And then we'll just have to plug it in, make sure it turns on, and that nothing blows up. It's a Cooler Master power supply. I don't see anything blowing up. So as predicted, nothing blew up. It looks pretty good. It's running all right. We got it up and running and no major problems. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the Cooler Master, and I'll be able to use the ThermalTake in something else. It'll be a smaller build, so I won't need to use all the power. But this one, if I upgrade something eventually, like the CPU or maybe even the GPU, I could use the extra power that's in the 850, so everything works out pretty well. Alright, now obviously I didn't use all the cables, which is cool because, I mean, they provided more than enough cable, and matter of fact, there's more than enough holes in the back of the power supply. I would have, if I had hooked up all the accessory power, like the SATA cables, I think there was one extra slot. And of the cables that were provided for the CPU and the PCIe, there was 2 of each of those supplied, and I believe there were 6 holes. So I would have 1 additional hole for each one. So that worked out really, really well. So even if I had plugged everything in, I would still have additional space to plug another cable in, provided I could get one from Cooler Master or order one, or whatever the case may be. The power cable, I did not use the power cable that came with it because I already had a stronger one. I had a 16 gauge where this is an 18 gauge. Not that it makes a big difference. Matter of fact, it's not going to pull enough wattage to make any difference at all, especially not with the components that are in it. But it was already plugged in. I already had that the 16 gauge there, which is a little bit bigger wire. I already had the 16 gauge plugged in, so I just plugged it right back in. The ThermalTake, 650 watt, 80 plus bronze, has been a very, very solid PSU for me for a while now. And yes, I did go ahead and blow it out. There was some pretty big dust bunnies in it, but I went ahead and cleaned it out, cleaned it up. It's going to go in another build. The biggest reason why I swapped these out is because the Corsair is more likely with that 3600X to be swapped out and need a bigger power supply than the one that I'm going to build that's going to be much smaller. It's not going to take nearly as much power. I could probably get by with 450 or 500 watts, and so there's no need to put an 850 watt in there. I would sooner use it on either my editing rig or the gaming rig than to do test bench and smaller builds. So that's the whole reason for swapping it out. Nothing other than trying to clean up a little bit of clutter and just make sure I had the smaller power supply to use with a smaller build. So that's it. I mean, I know it wasn't terribly exciting. It was more just kind of going through the motions and showing you guys a couple of clips in between and what to look for. But I will let you guys know in the coming weeks how I like this power supply. I do like all the cabling and the instructions and everything that came with it. It was packed very well, packed very securely. It was a little bit longer. It was a ½ inch longer than the ThermalTake, so I did have to move the hard drive cage and in that small Corsair 220T case. But it wasn't horrible. It was something that I could do in a few minutes. The cables were long enough to be able to route pretty easily in that case. I don't know if they would have been as easy to route in a larger case, maybe like a 5000D or a 7000D from Corsair, just sticking with the same company there, or maybe a larger case. I'm not sure. I would have to play around and find out or figure it out. But I know that they did fit okay in that case, and it's up and running, and I got no problems with it. So, like I said, I realize it's not my typical kind of video, and I apologize for that, but hopefully you got something out of it, and maybe, and I'll let you guys know what's going on. I just thought that since I was doing this, I would go ahead and record it and take you guys along for the ride, and so that's what I did. There is other stuff coming up. Things have been a little bit slow right now due to other reasons that I'm not going to divulge yet, but might be pretty exciting later on. And hey, it is what it is, and hopefully you guys will still hang with me and be along for the ride. So anyway, if you like the video at all, go ahead and throw a like on it. If not, I totally understand. Leave me any kind of comments you want, especially if you have any experience with the Cooler Master power supplies, or ThermalTake power supplies, or efficiency of one versus the other, or think I made a good move. I got this thing on a pretty good sale. I was looking for another, say, 600 or 650 watt power supply, and found that 850 for just a little bit more, and thought I could go ahead and just order that one, do a little bit of swapping out, and I would be able to have a 650 to use in the other build. So that's where I am, and I'm sorry, not sorry. I don't know. Anyway, leave me any kind of comments, and until next time, folks, I will see you later.